Hello, this is BentvNews Round Up, a compilation of major stories in the weekend. I'm Tunde Alabi. Thank you for being part of the program today.
Will the Prime Minister help people like Rachel and back secure 3-year tenancies for all private renters?
Well, can I say to the right honourable gentleman that I think he was present in the chamber when the budget was given to this chamber, and that's precisely why we said that we are looking at ways in which we can encourage longer-term tenancies. Now, the point is, what is important is ensuring that people have the ability to have the accommodation that they need, that they want, and on the basis that is right for them. That's why, as I say, we are dealing with this issue of longer-term tenancies. But he talks about people renting their homes, and his response on renting is to bringing rent controls. Now, rent controls have never worked. They result in reducing the number of homes that are available for people who want to be able to have accommodation and a roof over their own head. And it's not just me that says that Labour Party policy won't help people who are renting. Shelter say that it won't help people who are renting.
Mr. Speaker, evictions by private landlords have quadrupled since 2010. There is not security in the private rented sector, and the Prime Minister well knows it. She also promised one-for-one replacement of council housing sold off through Right to Buy. But just 1 in 5 council homes have been replaced. Hundreds of thousands of people are on housing waiting lists. Will the Prime Minister apologise for what she said and tell the House when she will deliver this one-for-one replacement?
And as the right honourable gentleman knows, we are increasing the flexibilities to enable councils to actually build homes. We've put more money into affordable housing. He talks about the right to buy. I have to say, what a contrast. We actually want to give people the opportunity to buy their own home. The Labour Party would take that opportunity away from them. What do we see? What do we see on housing? You know, the shadow housing minister recently said that fewer people owning their own home is not such a bad thing. Well, I have to say to the right honourable gentleman that what he's offering to people on housing, if you live in a council home, he'll take away your right to buy. If you're looking to rent, Shelter say his policies will harm you. And his shadow housing minister doesn't want to support people owning their own homes. It's only the Conservatives that will deliver the homes this country needs.
If only it were true, Mr. Speaker. Under the Tories, home ownership has fallen by 200,000. Under Labour, it rose by 1 million. And 40% of all homes sold through Right to Buy are now in the private rented sector. The latest figures, Mr. Speaker, show that a quarter of all privately rented homes are not up to decent standards, meaning many families are living in homes with damp, that are not secure or very poorly insulated. Does the Prime Minister support homes being fit for human habitation?
Of course we want homes to be fit for human habitation, but can I just remind the right honourable gentleman that the number of homes failing to meet the decent home standard is down by 49% since the peak under the Labour government. And while I'm talking about the record of the Labour government, statutory homelessness peaked under the Labour government and is down by over 50% since then. It's this government that is delivering for people on housing. It's his government that Labour failed to deliver over 13 years.
I would just remind the Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, that under Labour, 1 million homes are brought up to decent home standard. I would also assume from what she said she will be here on the 19th of January to support my honourable friend, the member for Westminster North's bill to make privately rented homes fit for human habitation. When it comes to housing, Mr. Speaker, this government has been an absolute disgrace. After 7 years, more people are living on the streets, more families in temporary accommodation, more families in homes not fit for human habitation, and fewer people owning their own home. When is this government going to get out of the pockets of property speculators and rogue landlords and get on the side of tenants and people without a home of their own this Christmas?
Prime Minister.
Under Labour, house building down, homes bought and sold down, social housing down. One thing, I'll tell him one thing did go up under the last Labour government: the number of people on the social housing waiting list. 1.74 million people waiting for a home under a Labour government.
As a candidate, I promised we would pass a massive tax cut for the everyday working American families who are the backbone and the heartbeat of our country. Now we're just days away, I hope, you know what that means, right? From keeping that promise and delivering a truly amazing victory for American families. We want to give you, the American people, a giant tax cut for Christmas. And when I say giant, I mean giant. As we speak, Congress has reached an agreement on tax legislation that will deliver more jobs, higher wages, and massive tax relief for American families and for American companies. The typical family of four earning $75,000 will see an income tax cut of more than $2,000, slashing their tax bill in half. It's going to be a lot of money. You're going to have an extra $2,000, but there are many more things than that. Our plan expands the child tax credit for working families. You'll hear the numbers very soon, but they're even larger than anticipated. It nearly doubles the amount of income taxed at the rate of 0. I don't know if any of you are paying 0. I hope you're not. I hope you're paying above that. But a lot of people who are having it a little bit tough are going to be paying 0. It closes special interest loopholes. It lowers tax rates for families. And our plan also cuts taxes on businesses, which is expected to raise income by an average of more than $4,000. So your income goes up. It's like having a $4,000 increase, which isn't bad, It's a lot of money to spend. A lot of jobs are going to be created with the money that you spend. Very special. And it makes America competitive again so we can bring back that simple but beautiful phrase. You've heard it before, made in the USA, right? I don't know if they've heard it, but you've heard it. Our current tax code is burdensome, complex, and profoundly unfair. It has exported our jobs, closed our factories, and left millions of parents worried that their children might be the first generation to have less opportunity than the last. Our factories have left, so many of them gone, but they're all coming back. And you see it even before we do this. They're starting to come back. Our country's starting to do really well again. And as a country, we're being respected again. We're being respected again. I'm here today to tell you that we will never let bad things happen with respect to the economy of our country. We're not going to lose our businesses again like has happened over the last number of decades. America is coming back bigger and better and stronger than ever before. Okay, they'll see it, and they're going to see the result. America isn't content just by getting by. America is about getting ahead, about finding the best in ourselves and in each other. We're reclaiming our destiny as Americans, a nation that thinks big, dreams bigger, and always reaches for the stars. We didn't become great through massive taxation and Washington regulation. And by the way, we are cutting regulation at a rate never seen before in the history of our country. We became great because our people, our families, and because of our freedom. We became great because of our drive to find the next horizon, to unlock the next mystery, and to begin the next adventure. You know what I'm talking about. And that's who we are, a nation of strivers and builders and dreamers and doers, people who treasure their independence and don't know how to quit. Never quit, never ever give up, never ever. I say that also to our great cabinet, and they've done a great job. A lot of things have happened. Nobody's done the job that we've done. When government loosens its grip, there is no summit we cannot reach. Our tax cuts will break down, and they'll break it down fast, all forms of government and all forms of government barriers, and breathe new life into the American economy. They will unleash the American worker. They will tear down the restraints on discovery, innovation, and creation, and they will restore the hopes and dreams of the American family. Millions of middle-class families will win under our plan.
In Alabama, jubilant supporters of Democrat Doug Jones celebrate his victory over Republican Roy Moore.
This campaign has been about the rule of law. This campaign has been about common courtesy and decency and making sure everyone in this state, regardless of which zip code you live in, is going to get a fair shake in life.
Moore was unable to overcome allegations of sexual misconduct stemming back decades, involving several women who were teenagers at the time, while Moore was in his 30s. But Moore did not concede the race.
Is we've been painted in an unfavorable and unfaithful light. We've been put in a hole, if you will, and it reminds me of a passage in Psalm 40. I waited patiently for the Lord. That's what we've got to do.
President Trump said Wednesday at the White House he had hoped for a different result.
Yeah, wish we would have gotten the seat. A lot of Republicans feel differently. They're very happy with the way it turned out. But I would have, as the leader of the party, I would have liked to have had the seat. I want to endorse the people that are running.
Jones won in part because of a strong Democratic turnout, especially by African Americans. Moore was hurt by a depressed Republican turnout and a write-in campaign that drained away Republican votes. Democrats were excited to pull off a win in deeply Republican Alabama, including Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer.
So you put all that together, base being energized, millennials overwhelmingly Democratic, suburbs swinging back to the Democrats, and it means that things are looking good for us.
Jones's victory is sure to send political shockwaves as both parties look ahead to next year's congressional elections, says analyst Larry Sabato.
If I were running Republican campaigns for Senate, for House, for governor, for state legislature, I'd be really, really worried because there appears to be a wave building and it has a giant D on it, D for Democrat.
Meanwhile, Trump continues to struggle with low approval ratings. Losing a Senate seat could make it more difficult for Republicans to govern, says expert Molly Reynolds.
We see that Republicans, once Jones is seated, will now have a 51 instead of 52 seat majority in the Senate. And we've seen time and again over the course of the year that they have trouble governing with just 52 seats. And those challenges won't get easier when they lose one of those senators.
House and Senate Republican leaders said Wednesday they have now agreed on a final version of a tax reform bill, a key campaign promise of the president. Republicans hope to finish work on the tax cut plan before Jones is sworn in as a senator next month.
Poverty, political disillusionment, and masses of young, unemployed Muslims. Those are ideal conditions for Islamic extremism, and they are all found in Africa.
If we're trying to look in the future, it's actually happening now that Africa is going to be the spot. It's going to be the hot spot.
The entire African continent has less than half the number of American troops deployed in Afghanistan. But increases in terrorist activity are among the reasons why the American military presence has grown rapidly on the continent, from 3,200 military personnel in 2009 to about 6,500 today.
There is African concern that the U.S. approach is becoming rather more militarized or more concerned with military and security issues than had been the case in the past.
John Campbell, who served as ambassador to Nigeria under President George W. Bush, told VOA the main thrust of effort on the continent should be on what he calls the root causes of extremism, lack of economic development and poor governance. But this effort will likely prove more difficult if the State Department's budget is slashed by a third, as forecast in the administration's budget plan.
Is, in fact, a security approach going to work? And I would suggest that by and large, no.
U.S. Africa Command, which oversees military activities on the continent, aims to strengthen local African militaries to combat Islamic extremists.
Fire when ready!
Africa's growing young male population is ripe for recruitment. Africa Command's senior enlisted leader told VOA.
You have no options, and here comes an extremist that is offering you a motorbike and a bride. What do you think you're going to do? Your family's starving, you can't provide for them, and somebody's giving you an option.
The administration this year expanded the authority to strike al-Shabaab and Islamic State fighters in Somalia, allowing offensive strikes against the militants, rather than just strikes defending African allies and their American advisors.
It definitely helps, because we're doing our best to go ahead and employ our assets to help them out in any way we can.
But the war against extremism in Africa has not come without a cost. A U.S. Navy SEAL died aiding Somali security forces against al-Shabaab in May, and 4 American soldiers were killed in an October Islamic State ambush in Niger. If the security needs grow in coming months, more American troops could find themselves facing dangerous situations across the African continent.
Perhaps the best demonstration of coffee's impact worldwide happened recently in Shanghai, in tea-drinking China, where the US-based chain Starbucks opened its largest shop, taking up 2,700 square meters and employing more than 400 people. While the shop's popularity is not just for coffee's health benefits, a new study says they are indisputable.
There are some headline benefits, such as a lower risk of dying from any cause, a lower risk of dying from heart disease and stroke, and a lower risk of developing heart disease in the first place. And for those outcomes, the maximum benefit was around 3 to 4 cups of coffee per day.
Analyzing results of 201 previous studies about coffee's impact, researchers at the University of Southampton's Faculty of Medicine found that drinking coffee also lowers the risk of developing diabetes, liver disease, dementia, and even some cancers. The only exception was for pregnant women or those who are prone to bone fractures. But scientists point out the research was only about coffee, not what goes along with it.
It's not about the sugar and the syrups and the biscuits, cakes and pastries. And we'd urge people who are already drinking moderate amounts of coffee, about 3 or 4 cups per day mark, to enjoy it, but try and make it as healthy as possible, because standard health messages still apply to those other things.
The greatest benefit was in fighting liver diseases, so researchers are planning a clinical test of using coffee as a treatment for cirrhosis. But for some coffee lovers, there may be another circumstance that carries additional benefits: drinking coffee with pets around.
Pets are not only good for our health, but they can be good for our wealth, particularly if you have them in a small business environment where customers are going to be drawn in to interact with the dog or come in, and it's a really good icebreaker.
Private coffee shop owners take note. Having a pet in your cafe may benefit your business as well as your customers.
Lebanese security forces fired tear gas and water cannons to disperse angry demonstrators near the U.S. Embassy outside Beirut. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinian refugees live in the country, where many fled after they were expelled from their homes after Israel's founding. National protests against Trump's decision also took place in Morocco's capital of Rabat and in Egypt's Cairo.
Jerusalem is Islamic and Arab, and Trump's decision is invalid according to the international laws and in accordance with UN Resolution 181. How can Trump make an invalid decision? The decision is void and false.
During a visit to Paris Sunday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu insisted that Jerusalem has always been the capital of Israel.
Paris is the capital of France. Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. It's been the capital of Israel for 3,000 years. It's been the capital of the Jewish state for 70 years.
Macron and other European leaders criticized Trump's decision on Jerusalem, saying the city's status is a crucial issue to be negotiated between Israel and the Palestinians. The French president said his country stands by the two-state solution for the Middle East conflict, and that solution envisions East Jerusalem as the capital of a future Palestinian state.
France wants 2 states living in peace with internationally recognized borders to emerge in the region between Israel and Palestine. In this context, I explained to Prime Minister Netanyahu that I disapproved of the recent declaration by the President of the United States, which France believes runs contrary to international law and is dangerous for peace.
Macron asked Netanyahu to offer a gesture of peace to the angry Palestinians.
In terms of gestures, I said it seems to me that freezing settlement building and confidence measures with regard to the Palestinian Authority are important acts to start with, which we discussed with Prime Minister Netanyahu.
In recent years, the Israeli government has been approving the construction of numerous Jewish settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories, including East Jerusalem, which are illegal according to international laws. Netanyahu said his government is open to peace talks with the Palestinians, but that Israel's offers have been rejected.
We conclude the news roundup for this week. Thank you for being part of the program. I am today Alabi. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye. Part of our continued efforts to reach the African and other ethnic communities in the United Kingdom with greater impacts and create a platform to hear your silent and unheard views in this hugely green community in the United Kingdom, our channel, Ben TV, presents to you another live current affairs television program. Our focus on the program is to review and discuss issues around the diaspora community in the UK. The program offers you that unrestricted voice on issues affecting you in the UK. Join us live every Monday at 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Another business segment of Dialogue in Diaspora, 2 to 3 p.m. every Monday. But guess what? You know you can be part of the program. Just send us an email at bentelevisionuk@gmail.com. Dialogue in Diaspora, the voice, your opinion on our TV.